You know, with all the new subdivisions, well, new and old, a lot of the natural wooded areas have disappeared. Houses seem to be getting closer and closer together. And privacy, you know, even though we love our neighbors, it's always nice to go outside and have your coffee or have a beverage and just be still, be quiet, and be alone in the garden. So
definitely.
it's often hard. We're limited on space a lot of times as far as width, and people think they have to are limited to hollies or a large growing tree. But I find that you can make a tree out of anything. And oftentimes these fast-growing shrubs, these evergreen shrubs, give you such a diversity in foliage and texture and bloom and growth rate, growth habit. It's really easy to make these do exactly what you want them to be.
That's the reason so many times we describe these as a shrub / small tree.
Right.
Because they have a natural growth habit, but then they have a growth habit that we can exploit a little bit to give a whole new look. And another advantage to limbing these up and creating a small tree is that it gives us room to landscape underneath. So something that's complementary, something that looks fuller, instead of allowing the shrub to take the entire space.
Right, and we never have enough space to plant.
Underplantings are beautiful.
Oh, they are beautiful. And you've got, our main goal most of the time is at about 5 feet up, 5 to 6 feet up. That's where we want our green wall, or to extend our green wall. And like we were saying earlier, you can make this look with anything. I mean, this is a butterfly bush of all things.
Right.
So,
and,
this buddleia.
And it can be single trunk or multi-trunk. That's another thing too. It just kind of depends on your aesthetic, what you intend to do around the base of the tree, and whether or not you're looking for symmetry in some of your plantings. All of those can make a difference. So you're not limited by the specified or stated growth habit of that plant.
Correct.
You can get creative with it.
And one of my favorites to work with is the banana shrub, the Micaelia skinneri. It's so versatile, part shade, full sun, the blooms, the fragrance of the banana caramel.
The fragrance will knock you out.
Once established, it's a repeat bloomer. It's just off and on, almost year round. But I think people's hesitancy is they're not really sure where to cut, how to cut. I'm kind of afraid to cut. So I thought you and I might work on this guy.
Sounds good.
As you said, limb him up to get him started on his way to being a small tree.
Right. And one of the easiest ways to start is to sort of just look at it and think, okay, what do I want to leave?
Right.
So you're not so much just, taking cuts willy-nilly through it. You have an idea of the vision of, what stems do you want to leave? We know we still want to practice some good pruning, practices of, removing crossing limbs, anything that's rubbing, crowding each other. We want to get rid of some of the weaker, shrubbier, growth inside. In fact, that's what I would start with. Is removing that first, and then again, don't be afraid to go slowly. Stand back and take a look. What do I want to leave, and then removing or editing the things that you don't want to keep.
Exactly. So on this guy, I see. You've got obviously a main trunk here. You've got your main trunk here with a nice fork there. And from your side, would you say this one here?
I would say this one there. And this growth right here is crossing that growth right there. So I'm going to remove that. And each time you remove, you have that chance to look and edit again. So each cut can give you a little chance for reflection. So don't be afraid. You don't have to go fast. If you're uncomfortable doing this all in one afternoon, don't. Choose 2 or 3 afternoons. Remove things that you want out. Then take pull a chair out, get a cup of tea or a glass of wine, sit and look at it again and decide, okay, what do I want to take out next? You don't have to rush this if you are a little bit insecure about it. So all I'm doing right now is removing any dead, scrubby, small growth inside, dead, damaged, and dinky. There you go. This happens to be mostly dinky. And get that out of my way so that I can see more what am I doing.
Exactly. And you know, removing a lot of this lower growth when you're transplanting, that really helps it focus more on the roots. It takes pressure off, and it does encourage more upward growth faster.
Yep.
I love it. It's really coming around.
Yeah, just a few cuts makes a difference.
I think what we see is this is definitely going to cause a problem here.
Yes, they're rubbing together down in there.
So this one I may need this a little bit larger pair. And I'm going to come really close in here.
Yep. And notice that we are using bypass pruners and bypass loppers.
And that's so very important.
It is. That means that the blades bypass each other and make a very clean cut. If you have a pair of what we call anvil pruners, those are more for removing dead material. Right. And we're pruning on live material.
Right. I think maybe we should remove this. What do you think? It's just growing at an awkward angle there.
Yeah, and this side branch from it will thicken up after we remove it.
So you want to go right here?
Yeah, I think so, because this one gives us a good look out here. And we may remove it later.
This little guy.
Yeah, I'll get him.
And maybe with your small ones. There you go.
Get him.
And one cut leads to another. And also, don't be afraid. It's kind of like hair. It will grow back.
It will. In fact, sometimes they'll flush out more than you think.
Right.
Pruning really does stimulate. And it's all about controlling the growth hormone that's naturally moving through the plant.
Right.
So when you tip from above, that forces the growth hormone into the sides of the tree. And when you prune interior here, it's going to force the growth upward. So you have to kind of realize, too, that wherever you're pruning, you're going to have the opposite growth on it.
Right. And I always find that the more I cut, the more I want to cut.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to prune.
No. And this
I'm
guy,
going to remove this low side growth.
This one here, too?
Yeah, I think the low side growth needs to come out.
I agree.
That would be, in our concept of limbing up, these would be the first things we would get rid of.
And it's got a great look already.
Yeah, it does. Let's get this one out here.
This is pretty.
Oops. This didn't get all the way through. There we go. And again, we made that first cut on this, and now that we have, we can see that this one needs to come off.
Okay. So I'm going to come close to the trunk on this guy.
There we go. Good cut. I think this needs to come out too, which may
You may need my bigger ones,
but maybe I can get it. There we go.
You got it.
Okay, so it's changed quite a bit already.
It really has. That's a beautiful tree.
And again, this thin growth inside can come out and give it more. There we go. That's looking even much better.
I love it. I love it. Now, when we cut these, it's always a good idea. I brought the IV Organics out to give it a little protection. We don't want to use the tarry black material.
Right. You know, in the past, people have used what we call pruning tar.
Right.
Or they've used thick pruning paint.
Right.
They've used Elmer's glue. You know, a variety of things have been used. Generally, if the cut is smaller than your finger, don't worry too much about it.
Right.
But if it's anything larger than that, and we have a couple of cuts larger than that, the thing about IV Organics is that it breathes. It never closes the wound up completely. It's still breathable. It protects that wound from anything, you know, that might be in the wind, and there are things in the wind. But it doesn't prevent it from its own wound response. Right. And we want it to have its own wound response so it'll close itself off naturally.
Perfect. Well, this looks great, Angela.
It looks much better. I think it's off to a good start.
It's awesome. So you too can have a beautiful green wall with any plant you choose.